What up, what up? Great day to be a Golden Eagle. This is The Nest, wherever, however you're listening. Nate Wangler alongside my buddies Tim McTighe and Luke Schrock in the studio today. How you guys doing?
Pretty good. Not bad. Didn't almost die walking out of my dorm today, so, I mean, that's always a good day.
Yeah?
Yeah, I heard it's supposed to be colder in Chicago than Antarctica tomorrow morning. So
yeah, negative 50, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty
Something
much.
like that. Yeah, so how did you guys enjoy your snow day?
Pretty good. I woke up to my roommate whispering, "Psst, Luke, snow day, buddy." And we just got all hyped for a second, just went right back to sleep. Best time to wake up, man. The best way to wake up.
Yeah, literally the best way to wake up.
Cornerstone posted about the snow day, and like everyone's like, "Thank you, like you're so great, like this is so much fun." And I comment on the Instagram picture like 5:29, really, really,
Yeah.
Oh,
really.
so you're that guy.
Grand Valley at 9 o'clock's like, bruh, it ain't gonna happen. I'm closing it. Aquinas at 11 o'clock's like, bruh, you're right, it ain't happening. We're closing. Cornerstone's like, no, I don't know. We're like, come on, close it.
We have a lot of commuters.
Come on,
and,
we want
just
you to
a little
guys.
longer.
Yeah, like
God,
we can't have one snow day. Like I posted a picture on
God,
Overheard.
just shove that knowledge down my throat.
Like, yeah, I posted a picture on Overheard at Cornerstone, and it got like 80 likes, so people really liked my picture.
Yeah. I've
And-
never seen a community bond together the way that Cornerstone did when there was a snow day on the line.
Like there was a video, like a comedic video. I'm posting an Infinity War meme, which was really funny apparently. And there were some other pictures that were like, like Michigan in cold weather, and it's like 2 feet of snow outside. It's like, Michigan's just that state where it's just like, we're surrounded by a lake. We're really humid. But you know what? We're fine.
I hope you're
Like,
not talking
we're
about that lake in the middle of
We'll
campus.
live.
Yeah, the cancer fish filled lake.
Oh, yeah, there's another
that
thing
one.
I saw on the Florida news.
That was the best broadcast I've ever had in my life.
There's another thing I saw in the Florida news where it was like, 50 degrees, stay indoors. And I'm like, bruh, are you serious?
They get an inch of snow, the whole place shuts
Yeah, like,
down.
are you
Shuts down.
kidding me, man? Like, it's Florida, dog. I wish I was in Florida. I wish I was there.
It was a big weekend for Cornerstone Sports this weekend, too. We had the alumni game. I got a chance to make it over for the second half of that one. Luke, you saw a little bit more of that. The guy I was impressed with, and I think he could honestly still play at Cornerstone if he truly wanted to, that was Wes Hudson. I've never seen the guy actually play, and all of a sudden I walk in, and it's like the second time he drives, he like makes this like shimmy, bump off the body, reverse layup, kiss it off. It was so cool. But it's a big weekend for the Hudson family, not just with Wes Hudson, his sister Presley Hudson, who I got the honor to graduate. Oh my God, I am so tired this morning. Broadcast a little bit my freshman year at CMU. She just became the all-time leading scorer at Central Michigan. So, huge weekend for that family as well. And I mean, Kyle Steginga's just still doing Kyle Steginga things.
Well, he had a one-handed slam. He had like a wide open lane on the right side. Came in with the right hand. It's the most ferocious dunk I've ever seen him do in his career.
Luke with the 1 minute recap.
This is your 1 minute recap.
Okay, so the women's basketball team dropped a pair at home against Rochester, 74-59. And then Northwest Ohio, 69-49. And then the men's team, they had an opposite happenings. They increased their win streak to 5 with their win against Rochester, 89-70, and Northwest Ohio, 97-55.
So I decided to start a new game today. I was looking at the podcast the other night, and one of the things that I want to do is start playing the 3-word game. So today we're starting the 3-word game. We're describing one team here at Cornerstone in 3 words. The team I decided to focus on today was the women's basketball team. In 3 words, it's this: give it time. First impressions, really for anyone in any field, sometimes suck. I would say most times first impressions suck. There's a period at first when you start doing the thing that you really love doing where you have no idea what you're doing. You know how we referenced cancer fish earlier today? I kid you not, my first ever baseball broadcast that I did with these two yahoos, not only did they eat snickerdoodles on the broadcast, I could hear them chewing. And the 1-2. I'm like looking over at them. But not only that, we start talking about the pond that's behind the field, and Luke goes, "Yeah, you know, there's fish with cancer in there." All right, we're gonna send it to a quick break. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Cornerstone Sports Net. I mean, it was unreal.
Yeah,
I remember my first job at Little Caesars. I mean, think back to your first job that you ever had in high school. I mean, I was making pizzas at Little Caesars for a day, and then dropped one in front of a customer face down on the floor and had to go shake the shaker board out front of Little Caesars for 2 weeks. You know what the shaker board's for? It's not because you make cool moves. It's because you're the dude that either burns himself or makes a mess inside. So they're like, go shake the board.
Yeah, my first job was at McDonald's, and oh boy, working the grill was just fantastic. You know, it's always 100 degrees. It's always, you know, people, if you mess up one thing, you get yelled at.
Yeah.
And I just always, you know, like, you know how people, you know, you get your McDonald's sandwich, you know, like your McChicken or whatever, and it's like they wrap it all nice and tight. You know, that actually takes skill.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you have to put the sandwich down, and then you have to wrap up this.
But you
like this.
develop that
like,
skill, right?
Yeah, you develop it.
Right,
You know, like,
right.
it's like.
So a lot of people are shocked, you know, because you don't come into, you know, McDonald's or wherever else you work and you know how to do it right away. Mm-hmm. There's going to be that period where you're like, I was dressing how? I smelled, I wasn't really on time, I was more laissez-faire. A lot of people are shocked at how far this Cornerstone women's basketball team has fallen. But I just wanted to remind everyone that first-year head coaches, it's not all about winning championships. They just don't normally do it unless you either A, already have a slew of weapons at the team, or B, can manage to build a culture and a system that wins year or in under 1 year, because that doesn't normally happen. I want you to ignore a few things, all right? Ignore that this one of the youngest teams in over a decade. Ignore that this is a first-year head coach in Jessica Yonkers and a first-year assistant coach in Josh Sapanik. Ignore the largest collection of underclassmen in years. Forget about that. Leading player in all statistical categories is a sophomore. Forget about that as well. Let's focus on one thing today. Let's take a look at one thing. First-year head coaches around the league and what they did. Good head coaches of very good teams and what they did their first years. My first one I look at is Indiana Tech's head coach Jesse Biggs. Now, they're currently number 3 in the nation. They're unstoppable. It was really no doubt when they played us who was going to win or who was a better team. They went 13-18 Jesse Biggs' freshman year and lost 7 out of the first 8 games that she was the coach in. And then the team slowly started to improve. But they were already improving before she got there. She had to deal with 4 freshmen on the team when she got there, as opposed to, you know, half your team being freshmen, with just the remaining JV players filling up the roster. Michigan Dearborn's Jordan Sweeney, fascinating case study about this guy. Fascinating case study about establishing a culture and winning. His first year, 7-23. His second year, 9-20. Guys, that's 43 losses in 2 years for one guy. He's already won 20 games so far this year, and we still have a few more weeks left to go. Okay? Also, it came from the Elders coaching tree. I found this out yesterday. Coach Kim Elders coached Andy Bronkema, head coach of the Ferris State Bulldogs, who Jordan Sweeney was an assistant coach under at Ferris State. Take that for facts. Yeah. And our own coach, Kim Elders, didn't have a winning season his first 2 years. So don't look at the season in terms of records. I would encourage you to look at the season in terms of what we do good and what we do bad. Okay? Here's the bad. And I'm sure you guys have something to add to this. Bad. Body control. Turnovers are egregiously an issue. They're looking at their feet while they drive sometimes, looking at their feet while they dribble. But the big thing is that those cross-court lobs, passes in high school that would normally work are not going to work anymore. They're shy. I think they pass up a lot of opposing opportunities to shoot the three instead of settling and dishing it out inside into double, triple coverage. In the third quarter, I really don't need to discuss that one. We pretty much know what happens in the third quarter. But here's the good, okay? Energy. This team's never lost it. They could be 2 in a million, and they'll still come out and play just as hard as what they did the last week.
And I'm looking at one person with that, Ellen Kresge, a freshman on the team. She's lost her freshman jitters. And a couple games ago, or even further than that, I'd say about 6 games ago, she dribbled through not 6 defenders. There's no 6 defenders. But anyways, she dribbled through like 3 people.
Seems like 6 sometimes.
Yeah, at times, yeah. But he dribbled through 3 people, getting to half court, and then evaded a trap at the half court line, and then gave Cornerstone a chance to set something up. That kind of energy, that kind of hustle is a team like this on a struggling season. It's what they need.
Right. So good energy. I mean, they always bring it. You know, whether or not they're fouling out, whether or not they're losing by 40. If someone scores, they're all to their feet. They can score. We know they can score. Again, you just got to take the shot. You know what I mean? Just like shots in life. You know, if you want to do it, then go do it. You can't just sit back and think about doing it because then it's not going to happen, right? Morale. This is a one-of-a-kind team in the fact that they have everything to gain and nothing to lose. Quite simply, and I talked to Shelby Nybor a little bit about this earlier in the year, you know, it's not losing, it's always a lesson, especially with this team. The fact that they're able to sit back, win, and come out stronger, better, and look more improved, even so slightly in the next week or in the next game, that shows you that this is going to be a special team.
And it takes time to recruit.
Right.
We talked about Jessie Biggs of Indiana Tech earlier. Those first couple seasons, she didn't even have her own team.
Right.
She was working with a set of players that someone else recruited. And by the time she would have her full team that she recruited herself, that team went 21-11.
Yeah.
Then 25-8. 30-5, and then the monstrosity that it is today.
Yeah.
So once Coach Yonkers finally gets her team around, that's when we're going to see what Cornerstone women's basketball is really going to be.
And what did I tell you guys on the last show? I was very vehement about this. Did I say that right?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't think I've really
good.
even heard that word before.
I'm
I have
such
no
a
idea.
scatterbrain today. I'm just not in it. I'm sorry. For anyone listening, I'm not having a stroke, okay? I'm just
I mean, he looks it, but
Yeah, if only we
my
had the
body's just
visuals.
slouching off the table.
If only we had the visuals.
Oh man. Okay. Anyways, yeah. What fascinates me more is you're absolutely right, but it's about culture. It's about family. It's about system. You know, the reason why that I'm not all that nervous about Coach Yonkers is the fact that she gets it here at Cornerstone. It's the culture, it's the setting, it's the groundwork. They already have 4 new recruits coming in. She's started driving in a direction that's really kind of foreign to Cornerstone women's basketball. But you have to start the culture first and let the talent come. Her sister was just inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame, the Athletics Hall of Fame here at Cornerstone. She gets it. She gets that side of Cornerstone basketball. She's been here. She graduated. She took notes. She's been coaching at Rockford. She's been around the sport for a while. So time will only tell if things will end up panning out. Now on to our national segment.
It's time for our national segment.
Got some big questions for the panel today. First question, who is the biggest NBA All-Star snub? First off, I've never been a fan of all-star games in any professional sport across the board. I feel like it's just a big popularity contest, top to bottom. Some guys Some guys are very deserving of getting into the all-star game. But there are some players that sometimes make all-star rosters that only make it because they just so happen to be the popular guy. They've been around. I mean, if you ever watch the NBA All-Star Game, it's like celebrities, big names, cheerleaders, like dancing up on like massive platforms. There's like fireworks going off and like, you know, like rap music, and there's like an overly hyped DJ who's like screaming out everyone's name, and you know, it's like, whoa! I just want to see the basketball game, guys. I mean, come on. Especially not a big fan when fans, short for fanatic if you guys weren't aware, they get 50% of the say in who gets to play. Because just because a guy has some cool highlights and is new and flashy and fun and doesn't mean he statistically or in any way better than the guy who in my mind got shafted this year for an NBA starting spot in the All-Star game. So here's a list of the NBA All-Star starters, and at the end I'll tell you who's missing. In the Western Conference, Harden, Curry, George, Durant, and James. In the Eastern Conference, Irving, Walker, Leonard, Antetokounmpo, and Embiid. Antetokounmpo and LeBron James both lead the voting and will both be captains. Now here's the rule. So you get 2 guys in the backcourt, right? 2 guards, 3 forwards. Someone in mind who's missing from the list is Anthony Davis. The media voted him 3rd. I respect the media. They're there. They're always watching. They're always observant. They read a lot into the game, like guys like you and me. NBA players voted him 3rd. I trust the NBA players. The loyal NBA fans of New Orleans put Anthony Davis at 5th. He finished behind Paul George, who got straight 4s. And you want to know who finished 2nd on the fan vote this year? Luka Doncic. No disrespect to the kid, but like we said on our latest podcast, he's new, he's shiny, he's flashy, and America can't quite seem to get enough. He's good, but like Paul George, he's not Anthony Davis good. Fans, again, short for fanatics, get 50% of the vote. So let's put fairness aside and look at it this way. Oklahoma City has 2 things. Oklahoma City Thunder basketball and Boomer Sooner football. That's it. They value your team. They're excited to come out and cheer. They're excited to vote you on. I don't even think New Orleans really remembers they have a basketball team at times. They have the Saints, big college football town. They got jazz. They got adult entertainment. They got Bourbon Street that smells like a big urine sample.
They have chicken that tantalizes my taste buds.
They have everything down in New Orleans, but NBA basketball. And I would argue the New Orleans fans don't really care. So let's compare these 2 guys statistically, and you tell me who's fair to get into the All-Star game, right? And let's just compare Anthony Davis and Paul George, because as much respect to Luka Doncic for what he's done, he's not these guys quite yet. He still has a few years to go. Let's look at points. Anthony Davis, averaging almost 30 points a game, 29.3. George, averaging 27, check, AD. Field goal percentage. Anthony Davis, shooting 51%. George, 44%. Check, AD. Rebounds. 13.3 for Anthony Davis, 8.1 for Paul George, check, AD. Anthony Davis even averages, even though it's slightly, more assists than Paul George. The only stat AD is behind on is 3-point shooting percentage. The only thing PG needs to do, because Russell Westbrook technically forgot how to shoot this year. The fans get way too much say in my mind, and just because something is perceived as fair does not necessarily make it that way.
Well, and here's one guy in my mind, and this one's going to be an unpopular opinion. I'm just going to let you know this right now. Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
He's overlooked.
Oh.
And if we're looking at
the freak.
stats, 26.2 points per game, 6.2 assists, 4.5 rebounds. You look at the starters already, we're pretty close. Take a look at this. 26.9 points per game for Paul George. 23.5 for Kyrie Irving. 27.6 for Kawhi Leonard. That's all right in the ballpark, fellas. Now let's look at assists. 6.9 assists per game for Kyrie. 4 assists per game for Paul George. That's really similar, guys. So if we really look at how much the fans impact this, it's a lot.
And if I were to ask you, hey, who has the bigger sports fans, Portland or Boston?
Boston, easy.
Boston, by a mile.
Yeah.
There's no
Not
bigger
even
sports
close.
city in the United States than Boston. It's a popularity contest. I mean, statistically, I'm not going to say Kyrie Irving's a bad player.
Oh, no.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely not.
It hasn't been the greatest year of his career. I think there were greater years. But what fascinates me always about All-Star games is it's the most popular guy that gets in.
Oh yeah.
It's the Aaron Rodgers who has underperformed the entire year and driven a Super Bowl winning coach out of town that somehow gets a bid to the Pro Bowl. I don't know. Fascinates me.
Yeah, I think Kyrie Irving's still fighting off that injury. Like, kind of comparing him to Carson Wentz a bit. I feel like they're just overusing him a little bit because coming back from a knee injury, that's a really hard thing to do, especially in a constant moving sport like basketball. Like I love Kyrie Irving to death, and I even loved him at Cleveland, but then LeBron came, and I'm like, you know what? He's kind of trying to steal his shadow a bit.
Yeah.
Because this used to be Kyrie Irving's team.
Yeah.
Kyrie Irving was the big dude in Cleveland. Now LeBron came, and now it was all about LeBron.
Right.
So I felt like Irving was a little bit undervalued, despite making that.
But even he had to
NBA
call
Finals.
Bron and go, hey, dude, like, I'm sorry, I didn't listen. I went to Duke, got a chance to learn under Coach K, left as soon as I could. Couldn't get off the campus quicker. And then you come to Cleveland and try to teach me a few things, and I'm out of here, So we had to call up Bron and say, listen, I'm sorry. I didn't know what it was like, what it took to lead a young team. It's, in my mind, fascinating, however, the way that fans looked at Luka Doncic this year and had this massive push to put him as a starter in the All-Star game. Guys, just because a guy's new on the scene doesn't mean that he's one of the best players in the league. But fans, again, short for fanatics, don't do their homework. They want the guy that's draped in their colors to represent in the All-Star game. And it's a big show. I mean, I'm really happy that they end up actually playing pretty hard this year. Ever since they implemented the drafting rule, I think that's really changed a lot of things, which is cool because I like that. So, moving on to our second question of the day. So that was our first question of the day. Who was the biggest All-Star snub? The second question. And this one was something that Tim brought up. And Tim, I'll have you actually start this segment when I get the question out there. What is the hardest professional sport championship to win and or win consistently? I had to ask, first of all, is this a Big Four question or is this a all-around-the-world type question?
I think this is mainly just a national question because, I mean, like, a lot of it has to do with, being there all the time. For example, I believe the NHL, or the Stanley Cup, is the hardest to win out of all 4 national sports. So, keep in mind, guys, this is the NBA, the MLB, the NHL, and the NFL. So out of all 4 of these, the Stanley Cup is the hardest to win. First of all, it's 4 best-of-7s. You have the baseball, a best-of-5 and 2 best-of-7s, too short. Then you have the NFL, you just got to win 3 or 4 games. But again, it's always a do-or-die situation. It's always really close, which makes things really awesome. And then the NBA, yeah, there's 4 best-of-7s, but, as I mentioned last podcast, it is so, quote-unquote, dang predictable. I just stuttered.
Predictable. Sorry, I've started about 7 times so far today.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I can attest to that. I listened
you're
to both
taking
of
a
them.
while
So,
to catch up to me.
4 best-of-7s. And if you take a look at this, the NBA, the NFL, it's usually, right now, the NFL, there's the top 2 seeds in both NFC and AFC that were both in the championship games. And the Patriots won, which is the 2 seed. So both 2 seeds won. So then you look at the NHL. There's a certain trophy that you get when you're the best regular season team by points. So in the NHL, you get 2 points for a win, and you get 0 for a loss, and then you get 1 for an overtime loss or a shootout loss. The last year's President's Trophy team was the Nashville Predators. They were absolutely dominant, scary. And to think, Tennessee as a hockey team, in the middle of country western town, you'd think, oh boy, that'd be fun. Their fans are obnoxious, I'll give you that. But they were eliminated in the second round to the Winnipeg Jets, the young Winnipeg Jets. The year before that, the Washington Capitals were eliminated to the Penguins in the second round. It's usually never the best team to win it in overall points. The last team to win it in overall points was the Chicago Blackhawks in 2013, and may I remind you, it was a really exciting game if you remember that.
Well, here's one thing you don't have in hockey. In the MLB, you have to have not only a good pitching staff, but you have to know who to plug in, what inning, what point in the game, and when. You had mentioned a couple 5-game series and a 7-game series. Yeah, that's less games. But in the NHL, do you have to switch out your goalies to different points in the game?
Quite a bit, actually. Due to injuries and other stuff.
That's the thing. That's the thing that I would say is what makes Tim right. And I'm not saying you're wrong, but the thing about the NHL playoffs is in baseball. I'm not saying baseball isn't physically exhausting because it is.
It obviously is.
It obviously is. But the NHL, you still have to win the same amount of games. Could you imagine if they had a 7-game series for football?
Oh,
Guys would be dead at the end.
Oh, yeah.
In the NHL, you're only out on the ice for a minute. I'm talking a minute at the most.
Yeah.
These guys are physically exhausted by the end of it. I remember the Wings would have really good hockey teams with really good talent, but by the time they got to the playoffs, they were beat up. Mm-hmm. And by the time that Game 7 rolled around of round 1, there was no way they could even skate off the ice. They were so tired and all their legs were shot. That's what, in my mind, forget the salary cap and all that other stuff. What, in my mind, makes the NHL such a tough thing to win, the Stanley Cup, is the fact that I realize they're all athletes and they've been doing this their whole life. Guys, it's physically exhausting. You get beat up every single day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, going back to the President's Trophy thing, the last team to win it, the President's Trophy and win the Stanley Cup, was the Blackhawks in 2013. Before that, the Detroit Red Wings in 2008, which, oh my God, that team was, as a bitter rival, that team was really fun to watch.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Pavel Datsyuk just go swarming in the middle of the ice and just make a huge dangle around 4 defensemen and just goal.
That dude,
wow.
That dude spent his whole career in the United States and never learned how to speak a lick of English. He didn't have to. You should have heard the interviews with him.
He's like, I go puck, I shoot puck in net and score.
And in goal. And I skate circles around you. Okay, all right, dude. Well, you do what you got to do, all right? I'll be up in the stands with my buddies screaming your name. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's what in my mind makes hockey. And I didn't really even need to think about it that much because, you think about, the NBA, obviously, it's a lot more stop and go, and it's a cardio league, and there's running. The MLB is, at least for pitchers, especially if you go on a short rotation, it's probably going to be a lot more grueling. You're going to use your bullpen a lot more in the playoffs, without a doubt.
Well, and you switch up your roles, too, in the pitching staff.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like Aroldis Chapman. He's a closer. He may, pitch an inning or 2 per game?
Yeah.
That man.
When the Cubs won the World Series, it seemed like he was in everything.
Exactly.
Don't even get me started on Joe Madden and Chapman. Don't even get me started.
4 innings?
Yeah.
In a game?
Tim's not happy about Joe Madden.
I'm definitely not happy.
Oh, yeah, I can
No.
tell. And talking with him outside of the podcast, yeah, he does not like Joe Madden.
Oh yeah. Do not bring up Joe Madden. Do not bring up Joe Madden or Chris Bosio. Don't ever. But
Well,
anyways,
Chris Bosio doesn't deserve to be brought up. That dude's a joke.
yeah,
God. I was just joking with my friends. I didn't call him that. Really? All these staffers are coming up to us saying you called him that, and you God, you know what that sounds like? Sounds like a psychopath. All right, Chris Bosio.
Yeah.
Okay, stay on your couch wherever you are. Kick up the chair.
See, my whole point of this, guys, is that, you know, if you look at the NFL, okay, we barely talked about it. Obviously, you need to win 3 or 4 games, you know, if you get a bye week and all that good stuff. You know, the list of the Super Bowls, how many Super Bowls have the Patriots won in the last couple of years? How many have they been to in the last couple of years? Like,
Quite a few.
yeah, quite a few.
But you got to understand
The
that that's the
last-
exception to the rule,
Yeah.
especially in the NFL. I mean, you look at the Falcons when they went to the Super Bowl, you know, you turn around and you go, okay, well, obviously they're going to at least make the playoffs next year, right? At least with the talented roster that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, they looked like Cornerstone basketball after last year. I mean, half the team left, you know, or graduated.
Matt Ryan.
Coaches got fired. Matt Ryan looked like a shell of himself. And now we're talking about Atlanta being one of the most disappointing teams in the NFL. Guys, they were just in the Super Bowl.
They're cursed, dude. They're cursed. I don't know what else
The
to
Lions
say.
are
They're
cursed.
cursed. Like, you know,
Frickin'
so
Lions.
my whole point of this is that in the NFL and in the NBA and even back in the MLB, multiple teams have won multiple titles.
Well,
the
in the
last team to win back-to-back Stanley Cups was
Yeah.
just recently with Pittsburgh Penguins, but
Yeah.
before that, the 1978, the 1998 Detroit Red Wings. Guys, it's that freaking hard to repeat as champions.
Yeah.
It's even that hard to make it back. You know, back in the 2008-2009 days when the Pittsburgh Penguins and Red Wings were, you know, locked horns in the
Wings
Stanley
went
Cup
to
final.
25 straight
Yeah.
playoffs.
Yeah, I just saw a stat the other day, actually. Last year, the Chicago Blackhawks and the Detroit Red Wings missed the playoffs for the first time since 1969. 1969. In almost 50 years.
You mean like
both
one
the
of
Blackhawks
one of the two
and the Red
teams?
Wings have both missed. Like, they both missed the playoffs
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
same year.
Okay.
So that means either the Red Wings have made it or the Blackhawks or both.
Right.
Like, that is just crazy. And I know the Red Wings went on an incredible playoff streak, and even the Blackhawks between the 60s and 90s were, like, always in the playoffs but just couldn't get it done.
Right.
You know, it's that freaking hard to win the Stanley Cup. It's that hard. You know?
Yeah. I think, yeah, and it's for a collection of reasons. It's not just talent. It's not just who you have on your team. Again, it's the team aspect. I don't think there's any bigger team sport
Yeah.
in the world than hockey. And you could argue that. And, you know, there's obviously, well, what about basketball? And what about football? Team, obviously, you have to play as a team to win in all cases and all scenarios.
Well, and hockey flows more.
It flows.
You
a
can't
lot
And
more
got
fast-paced.
there's angles. It's fast paced. You gotta be able to bark out commands. And
You got to
trust
think like
and
this.
think,
Yeah.
and you got to defend in front of your goalie with your back to the goalie. Make sure you don't block his vision. You know, it's
Blocking
there's just
shots.
blocking shots.
Taking a puck to the dude, like there was this one guy a couple of years ago who literally got a skate right up to his and cut his throat, and like you know he's bleeding.
Tim
all
just
over
took
the
this
ice.
podcast to.
I'm sorry to be disgusting. I'm sorry to give you
dark-
guys the visual
dark
mind
place.
aspect, but like
If any of you need
It
to
is a
stop
dark
watching
place.
just because you're imagining this, then please, because
Just don't imagine it.
I don't want to be
Easier.
the reason
just
that
don't.
you like.
I'm sorry.
have
We can
nightmares
edit that
at
out. if
God,
you want.
yeah, no,
Tim,
we're not
Tim,
gonna edit it
buddy.
out. I want the world to see just how twisted you are.
Yeah.
No, yeah,
It is a tough place. It is a tough place in the NHL. It really is.
Yeah,
And I mean, I think this is coming from a baseball player. Like, I've played baseball all my life. I've played hockey since I was about, casually since I was about probably 12 years old.
yeah,
Like, again, hockey is just the most fun and the most thrilling to watch. Because, again, going back, the NBA, it's so predictable, and you just know. I don't
Well,
even
don't you
watch
think-
the NBA
don't
that
you
much.
think-
Warriors and Cavs.
Don't you think?
Bam.
Don't you? Okay, well, the Cavs aren't going to the NBA
Well, yeah,
Finals this year.
definitely
if
not
you
this
don't-
year. It's
if
the
you don't
Warriors
know.
and then someone else.
Don't
the
you
Celtics.
think having one super team, therefore, in turn, makes it so much harder for the rest of the league to win a championship? That would make it harder to win a
Oh
championship,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So I mean, it's not that it's not hard to win it. It's that it's harder to win it in a different way. That's like a bunch of like D3 schools here in Michigan all competing, and then there's like one super good D1 school. It's like, well, yeah, you know, one team wins it all the time, but that doesn't mean we're not all trying. You know, all of us are over here busting our chops to try to make moves to try to put ourselves in the position to win the dang thing, and this team just keeps on winning it every single year because they're a super team. You know, there's a difference between a regular team and a super freaking team, and the Golden State Warriors have proven that there is a clear distinction between the two.
Well, and it changes the front office's strategy. You go from just building a team to be the best in the league to building a team to beat the best team in the league. That's two whole different strategies. Two whole different mindsets.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like, you know,
By the way, Aquinas College just closed.
Ooh,
oh boy,
we have a chance.
Oh boy, we have a chance.
We have a chance.
It's already, guys. It's already 8:10.
I have class in an hour.
Yeah.
Same.
Aren't there like 8:45 classes? I
There's
swear there was
7:30 classes.
Yeah, there's early morning classes. That's why, I mean, I don't know why they waited until 5:39. By the way, whoever cancels classes, if you're listening to the podcast, don't do that again. Okay? Don't make me go through that again. I woke up like, all right, well, here it goes. You know, I'm off into the snowy.
You need a roommate, man. You need a
What?
roommate. You need a roommate to wake you up and tell you the good news.
Anyways, going back to the point.
Back to our regular scheduled program.
Yeah, like, I feel like, you know, you mentioned this, Nate, the salary cap. The salary cap in the NHL is the strictest out of any sport.
Yeah.
You know, so going to the NBA, it's always like, oh, I'm going to go make a super team. You know, like with Anthony Davis going to the Lakers, teaming up with LeBron, and then whoever's going to team up as a guard or whatever. You know, you can't do that in the NHL. You know, if you can't make a super team in the NHL, like, it's really hard. Like, again,
It
right
is
now,
hard,
I'll
but
take, for example, the Edmonton Oilers. They have probably, arguably the best player right now, Connor McDavid. He can't just go play for the Pittsburgh Penguins with Crosby. He can't do that because they can't afford him.
Not with that attitude.
Yeah. with the high,
Maybe
like,
with a positive
payroll
attitude.
and, like, salary cuts and all that, they can't do that. And that's what makes it so interesting.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, you know, oh, what championship contenders are in the NBA? Well, you got the Warriors, you got the Celtics, you got the Raptors. And then in the NHL, it's like, oh, the Maple Leafs, the Boston Bruins, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Nashville Predators, the San Jose Sharks. It's like there's a whole plethora amount of teams in the NHL who have at least a chance of making it to the final.
Did you just say plethora?
Yeah.
Isn't it
Plethora amount of
plethora?
teams.
Isn't it plethora?
Oh, sorry.
it's
My
plethora.
Chicago accent just took over there. Anyways.
There's such a plethora of teams.
Such a plethora of teams, you know. Bears 49-52. Yeah, I know.
Okay, Timothy.
So again, guys, it is super hard to win really anything. And again, I've seen teams collapse. For example, the Blackhawks. They were a dynasty.
Yeah.
A dynasty.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, they have to trade away some of their best players, and they go through some injuries, like with Corey Crawford having vertigo, and that, you know, as a goaltender, that is a huge injury. And he just had a recent concussion as well, so he's probably out for a good amount of the season too. You know, it's really hard to win. And, you know, like, even the NFL, I'll argue, like, you're going through injuries a lot. NHL's the same way. You're going through a lot of injuries. You know, you what was the big guy that's injured on the
Yeah, you ever wonder why the Rams got to the point
Rams.
to where they are? It's because look at their injury report.
well, also because Cody Parkey missed a field goal, so, but, you know, whatever.
Shut-
Sorry, guys,
stop,
it was tipped.
Stop.
Chicago
It was
fans.
tipped.
Stop. The double doink. And then they give all those Chicagoans a chance to take the same field goal kick that Cody Parkey had to take. Did you see that? They put on a big event.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, they got hit in the nuts
Oh, yeah.
on Barstool Sports.
Guys, the Bears should have beaten the Rams. The Bears should have beaten the Rams.
Shut your face. Shut your face.
Yeah,
Guys.
you can tell I'm a little salty.
That
still,
would be a
but
much more entertaining. That would be an easier game to cheer for if it was the Pats Bears.
I even think
Oh,
the
yeah.
Bears
Pats
could have
all
beat
the
the
way.
Saints. The Saints just look.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
they
the
just look
Saints.
flat.
Yeah, as a Saints fan, yeah. I'll
I
take
remember. I know
responsibility for
the
that.
egregious call, but guys, they got outplayed and outcoached.
50
top to
rushing
bottom.
yards.
Yeah, you're not going to
strides
win.
right there.
If you become one-dimensional,
Like
you're not going to win.
you would think to me like, oh, the team to go to the Super Bowl, the Rams, like, yeah, they were there, but like, really? Like, it's like there's other, the Eagles and the Saints and the maybe
It's
even
the
it's the
Vikings
reputation
out of
it's
all
the-
teams. Nope.
It's the reputation of the NFC North. It's
By the way,
always been the Packers.
Kirk Cousins is overrated.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he
Oh,
just had
careful,
to get that out
Careful saying that around
Yeah,
these
I'm sorry,
parts.
as a divisional
Yeah.
divisional rival.
A lot of people that love Kirk Cousins around these parts.
I
no,
do,
but I
but
agree.
he
has
can't-
no awareness.
Can't win big games.
He has no awareness. Can't win big games. He chokes in a lot of situations, and he got lucky last year, so that's why he ended up in the position that he was in the NFC Championship game. So we're going to introduce our next segment that we're going to be doing. Coming up next segment, we're going to be picking, all three of us. We might actually be having some guests on the show. Who knows? All three of us will be choosing which team we like in the Super Bowl. So either the Rams or the Patriots. What the final score is going to look like, as well as maybe some key players to look out for, as well as we are thinking about having Brent Hibbets, University of Michigan transfer, and new forward for the Cornerstone men's basketball team, just looking to get cleared by the NAIA before he can come out, talking about his experience playing for John Beeline, as well as much, much more. Thank you for listening to The Nest. We'll sign off, and you have a very Golden Eagle day.